Good evening. We're back to Romans. Let's pray and get started with our journey through the Bible. I didn't bring my Bible, so I think I'm going to borrow one of those Bibles over there and just go from there. Any of those will do. I'm not biased on versions. There we go.
I have to have the easy reader.
Oh, very nice. Oh, New King James. That'll work. Let's pray. Dear Jesus, thank you so much for the opportunity to open up your word, be led by you to understand you better, and be in a place where we can apply what we read and have it show up as actual results of things that we not only apply, but share with others through transformed lives. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Okay, so let's go right away to Romans chapter 3. And if you don't already have it, that would be chapter 3, and we'll start from verse 13. We're going to read all the way to verse 18. I know, what an enormous amount of verses. I think we'll be okay, right? The majority of it is actually quoting other verses in the Bible. So not super original to Romans. Okay, who wants to start? Here.
Their throat is an open tomb. With their tongues they have practiced deceit. The poison of asps is under their lips.
Okay.
Their mouth is full of curses and bitterness.
15.
Their feet rush to shed blood.
Ruin and misery mark their ways.
Okay, very good. And the way, and the way of peace they have not known.
They have no fear of God to restrain them.
Okay. Oh, to restrain them. I like that different. Yeah, that's good. What version is that? New King. This is New King James. I don't think.
New Living.
New Living. Okay. All right. There it is. Okay. Before their eyes. Okay. So clearly we're quoting here from a few Psalms. Okay. A few Psalms. What does it assume, before we get into the actual questions, what does it assume of the audience if Paul is able to say to them, hey, I'm just going to quote from like songs and poetry language? What does it assume about his audience? Or is he just able to do that? Like, is this common knowledge that people would just know these psalms, these quotes, and he strings them together? It's not like they're all lined up.
He had to be from the church. They had to be from the church.
From the, okay, yeah.
Should, like,
Know some of what,
They have a background.
yeah.
Knowledge.
So at least a good percentage of people. And then sometimes I get a little, I kind of addressed it last Sabbath, when I said, I used that fancy word esoteric, right? Like, I don't know, sometimes, you'll be at church and people will say stuff, be like, well, and that everybody's supposed to know. Is this one of those situations? What is he trying to illustrate? Because it's been over 3 weeks, and what is he trying to portray here in Romans chapter 3? Just as a review, if you have your study guide there, and you can go backwards a little bit and see what's going on. What is he trying to illustrate? Because obviously he's quoting the Bible, or what was then the Bible at the time, the Old Testament, right? What is he trying to illustrate for them? Okay?
is he, like, calling people out by...
That's fine. Yeah.
Is he, like, calling people out by, like, saying bad things about people and not giving bringing the light to them?
Okay. Expand on that. What do you mean?
I mean, more like here where it says that their tongues keep deceiving in their throat. It's an open grave. It makes
okay.
me feel like he's saying like that these people are not using their mouth for the blessing of God,
Okay.
and they're using it for. Saying,
So you can make the argument that from verse 10, and you're correct. You're correct. You can make an argument that from verse 10 all the way to verse 18, he's giving a description of something that I would consider pretty sad, right? And I don't know how often we get to share that in a church setting or in a spiritual setting or even in a real setting. How do people usually react when you tell them about the human condition? Because if you act,
I'm not that bad.
okay, I'm not that bad, okay. If they don't know God, what's, based on your interaction, so this is a very personal question to all of you. Based on your personal interaction, if you talk about human nature with a person that has no exposure to the Bible, what is their usual reaction?
everything is fine because it's human nature.
Okay, so they would say, let's use a terminology that
There's good in everybody.
there's good in everybody, kind of like a yin yang type of thing. Okay, okay. Do you get when you interact with people, do you get more glass half full or glass half empty from people? What are you getting from people? Do you know what I mean when I say glass half full, glass half empty? Huh?
For sure, half empty.
Half empty?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. That's interesting, okay.
When you ask that question,
Yeah.
are you talking about as it relates to God or as it
No,
relates
just
to the
human
world
nature.
in
Like if,
general?
let's say they don't know anything about the Bible. Let's say they don't know anything about God. You run into a person and you ask them human nature. Is it going in a good direction? Is it glass half full? Is it glass half empty?
I agree with you,
I think
it's
it's
glass
bad.
half
I
empty.
think it's bad. Now, that made me feel bad. Like maybe I am the one with a
No.
bad disposition on the world. 'cause
No.
I automatically
Is that-
think, oh,
does
bad,
that-
sure, it's terrible.
It is the human,
terrible.
it is the human condition. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
since Satan entered the world, I mean, we've all sinned, and we all have a bent towards sin without God.
Yeah, for sure. Without a guidebook, I'm like, you don't want me to just make my own decisions because I'm not that nice of a person
Okay.
really without someone telling me to be.
Well, like for example, if you watch dystopian series online or something like that, where it's like, hey, the world has ended and stuff like that. There's no God. There's nothing. Everything's falling apart. What do they end up concluding? There's clearly evil people that they portray, right? And then, but for some reason, there's like, well, the human spirit finds a way to have a moral compass somehow. They never specify what that is. They never like clarify where that's coming from. But somebody will do the right thing. Somebody will step forward, right? Does the glass half full or glass half empty, does that have anything to do when with first, second, or third world? Does that have anything to do with what is happening in society around us at the time? Could that change? Does that fluctuate?
Yeah, I assume like this. Like I've always felt this way. Maybe it's because I'm an American, right? But and being married to a woman from South America, I know that life's a lot different there.
Yeah,
You know?
sure.
And to me, when I watch things and ingest things from Brazil, like the native people, like the Yanomami people, seem extremely happy for having nothing, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
to me, to answer your question, it definitely differs first world to third world or whatever situation you're in. And also, isn't that why we're the Bible Belt, right? We're the poor people in America, right? Like we always viewed the world glass half full, right? Because we just had faith that it would always be better, right? You just keep farming and eventually
Until there's cancer.
right, yeah.
Okay, or
Until
but I'm just being devil's advocate right here because I've seen very varied reactions to all of this, right? And then you can say Bible Belt, and I'll go back to the original question. There's the people that are assimilating this, they know, quote unquote, like she said, the Bible. And so they're hearing this, and you've got 9 verses of kind of like, there's none righteous, no, not one, right? There's like, what was that terrible, terrible phrase? Their throat is an open tomb. Oh, come on in. It's the Bionic Man himself. We have a little slot right here, right, for you to slide in, roll on in. You want to sit down? We got.
Well, I can sit over here in the big chair.
Okay, big chair. That's right. And you can lay out your situation over there. Okay, very good. Okay. Can somebody read Matthew 12:34? And I'm going to assume that what we're about to read is going to be red letters. Okay? We were just having a conversation before the stream started, before our meeting started. You've got it? Yeah. This is Jesus just being a super negative Nancy. Okay, go ahead.
You offspring of vipers, how can you, being evil, express any good things? For the mouth speaks from which fills the heart.
From the what? What is this? What was the last part?
The mouth speaks from that which fills the heart.
From that which fills the heart. My version says from the abundance of the heart. New Living says
Whatever is in your heart determines what you say.
whatever is in your heart determines what you say. So maybe that's that sliding scale we were talking about, right? Whether you're first world, third world, whether you're something tragic has happened, or just like, hey man, it's all sunshine and rainbows. For me, everything is awesome, to quote the Lego movie. All right. Sorry, esoteric knowledge, but somebody knows what I'm talking about, right? You never watched the Lego movie? Oh man, there's a fantastic song attached to it and everything. My kids and I, we sing it. It's great. But clearly, the Bible is telling us here, as we look at Romans chapter 3, it gives a cross-biblical description, right? So in the previous section, we had quotes coming in from, I believe it was Isaiah, right? Is that where it's quoting verse?
Isaiah 5,
Huh?
Isaiah 59, 7 and 8.
Yeah, and then Psalms, and then Ecclesiastes. Yeah, okay. What is the reaction from people when they hear what the Bible has to say about human nature? Is this like it's almost unfair for us to stop our reading in verse 18, right? It's almost like clamoring for us to keep going a little bit more, right? But let's talk about that. How do you spin that, not spin? Spin's the wrong word. How do you package that in a way that Jesus is still highlighted despite what human nature seems to, throughout the centuries, continue to display, right? So you mentioned that when things are very simple, people seem to be pretty happy, right? I remember getting into some pretty animated arguments with people that would make the argument that children are innocent and they're just inherently good, and that they're just wonderful little creatures. And there's a lot of parents here that just gave some snickers. I don't know if that was heard through the ambient noise, but like, why do we laugh? Why do we snicker like at that? We can toss that thing, it's fine. It's not a big deal. Anybody? Are children just pristine and just innocent?
You know what? You think they are when they're in, and then.
And then what?
And
What
then
happens?
life. You're like, how would I ever even think of spanking this kid? And then like, honey, hold me back.
Oh, okay. All right. I have a fantastic story that goes to that, but it'll take up too much time because I like to add expression and voices. But the people that were making the argument, that was the ironic part, that I got an animated argument with, because they didn't have children, right? I had children, and they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, what children have you interacted with? Have you stuck it along? Like, my kids led a pretty sheltered life, and I was just like, I was flabbergasted the first time I caught them lying. Right? Like I was like, where did that come from? Like it's straight up out of a vacuum, at least in my estimation, right? Because they weren't interacting with other kids. This was pre or early COVID, so we were isolated and everything else. And I'm like,
Kids?
huh?
You had COVID kids, like you had your kids during COVID, like.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, what would I have done with them? I don't know.
Is there?
Sorry, I'm very confused. I don't know if I answered that correctly.
No, you did. Just heard that they're like a little crazier. So that's why
They were a little crazier. No, we were fine. We were in Hawaii, so it was nice. We could go outside quite a bit. We just take them. Let's go to the mountains. Let's go to the water and stuff. So yeah, and it just stunned me. I was like, where, how? I was like, so because in my head I was like, is this learned behavior, or is this something deeper that comes from the heart? Has anybody else ever been stunned by sin that seems to come out of anywhere or nowhere?
I've been surprised at times.
At times, okay. Anybody else? Right? What's the most surprising thing about it?
Where did they learn that from? Where did they see it?
Uh-huh.
What, how, or hear it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Hear it. Okay, so you're struggling with exposure.
Yeah.
So we want to attribute it to exposure.
I'm not attributing it to anything, just wondering where it came from.
Okay.
I mean, real
Source,
basic.
source-wise. So when we read these verses that we just read, what seems to be the inclination of the author for compiling these Bible verses? Remember, this is other parts of the Bible. None of it is original to Paul, the author of this text. So what is he trying to highlight here? What does it seem to imply about?
No one is good, not even one.
Look at all
Okay.
this bad stuff you guys do. You don't
Okay.
do anything right.
Right, and so what does he cover in terms of human body, psyche, interactive, community? What is he covering? Just,
All the negative stuff.
okay, negatives. What does he cover? Is there anything that he's, so we got eyes, we've got feet, what else do we have?
Mouth,
Tongue, mouth, okay, how we talk,
actions, committing murder.
choices, okay, so we've got choices. When we say tongue, throat, all that stuff, is it just confined to, because it's not like your tongue and your throat are autonomous from something else. Like if we put it in our 21st century terminology, what are we saying?
What goes in comes out.
Right. The last verse, which yours was very different, right? Like
Have no fear of God to restrain them.
in verse 18, you mean?
Yes, that's in verse 18.
Yeah, okay. So there's no stopgap.
Yeah. I like verse 17. It says,
Okay.
They do not know where true peace is.
Okay. Oh, they repeat that again.
They do not know what true peace is.
Okay.
Mine says the way.
Yeah, mine says too, and the way of peace they
Okay.
have not known.
Okay. So these are restless people. These are not people who are stress-free, right? Peace, well, lacking of peace, it means you're living a life that is,
Destruction and misery are in their ways. It says their feet are swift to shed blood, whose mouth is full of cursing and bitterness. They are just filled with evil.
It's
Right.
clearly people that have heard the right thing to do and are not doing it, right?
Right.
Right.
They're being chastised. Like,
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna go back to pop culture, right? Like my time to watch things, if I'm gonna watch things, is very limited. So if I'm gonna watch something, it better be good, right? Like I'm not gonna waste my time on something mid. So if you go and look at the ratings for something to be 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10, and you look at those shows, the vast majority of the shows or the movies or the the dramatic representation of things is usually there's some really messed up things in there, and not only is it messed up, it's being celebrated, or like, well, look at the strength of this person to get past the hump of this incredible restlessness, this incredible, like they put themselves into what would we say there? mouth full of cursing, bitterness, a lot of killing happening, right? Destruction, misery are their ways. So, like, if we read through this, would it be a good description of some of the things that are very popular today? And it's celebrated. Awards are given, we celebrate it as work of arts because, like cinematography is amazing, how it's shot, location, how it's framed together, how it's written, all these other things. And you can make all those arguments, but the basic premise is like, do they actually end in a way that it's like they're giving you a lesson at the end? We're like, hey, don't do this, right? You got a hand right there. Go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say I totally agree with you, and I think as Christians we need to be very careful what we watch,
Right.
because I will say that for myself. And as I grow up, I see even more why my parents wouldn't let me watch certain things. And now, right when we got married, we were watching like the show, and I made him stop. I was like, we're not gonna invite this to your house. Like, this is not. I can't. Like,
You
would make
made
me-
him stop. All
Yes,
right.
I did.
All right.
Actually, I would make him put it on mute.
It was her show. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it was her show?
It just turned into doing magic eventually in the end, and then she was like, "Oh, I don't like this." That's
Yeah. But I would make him mute it, and then he was like, "Okay, I just won't
yeah. I was
watch
like,
it."
you can't make me watch the first 7 seasons and then like just be like, because they do magic. You just like turn it up. I was like,
Okay. Okay. I won't continue with 20 questions to kind of whittle it down.
Vampire Diaries.
And then there.
Yikes. Okay. All right. Oh yes. Yes. And we got to make sure. Anyway, never mind. Let's keep going with this because no, I get that. And what's the endearing part about it, right? Like when we read, what parts of the Bible do stand out the most when we are reading through the Bible, when we are presenting to people that are just beginning to understand the Bible, or just like if you want to familiarize them with.
David and Goliath, Jericho's walls falling.
Okay, so violence, good. All right, good. No, it's violence sells. Yeah, absolutely. But do people get to the, well, no, do people get to the end part where like, because the Bible does a good job, I would say, I don't know if you guys agree, but the Bible does a good job of like, don't do this, right? You get to the end of the story and it's like, hey, and not just don't do this, look at what happens cross-generationally if somebody engages in this type of behavior. Despite being, I'm prepping something for a Bible class tomorrow. I'm teaching some of the little kids about David, and of all the people that you guys just mentioned. That story does not end well. Like, it has a good start, but David's story does not. It does not end well, like at all. Yet he's called a man after God's own heart. Okay? Now, this is the part where we get, there's a discussion question situation here. It says, what do your words reveal about the state of your heart? Have you ever run into people that say, that have a vocabulary for church and then their vocabulary for anything but church? Have you run into that? What is that? What does that communicate? How does that? Like, I'm trying to be super careful with that because I don't want my kids to see that or to experience that. I experienced that with other pastors I used to watch, other families, other spiritual leaders, where in church it was like, even the vernacular, everything, the jargon, all of it was just like, you don't speak like that every day, right? Like, even just from that perspective. And then we'd go play soccer and whoa, what is happening, right? Like, it was, they turn into sailors, right? It was tough. Yeah, it was real tough. Yeah, so that's an expression. It's an old-timey expression. So I don't know why I'm into old-timey expressions. Yeah, no, the sailors were known for the coarse language, and a lot of the American, very uncreative cuss words that Americans have. It's just, you guys are very limited. Sorry. That's why sometimes I don't react to bad language, because like I'm like the real bad language in my head is in Spanish. It's in other languages or something like that. And I hear, unless they get Jesus involved, right? Like if they get Jesus or God involved, then I'm like, ooh, okay, I don't want that, And I will say something. I will say like, hey, that's my best friend. Let's leave that out. I don't come down on people like that. So Paul is talking to who here? Who is he talking to? He's talking to starts with a C, ends with Hirsch. Oh, okay, good. Yeah, and it's based out of Rome, and I think you have a good mix of people who know what the Bible was beforehand, and you got a good mix of people that are being brought into it, right? Romans. And so what is he saying? He's saying, don't do those things. We are in but not of the world. It's a big deal, right? Like, does the third commandment cover what this is saying in terms of speaking or how we do things? Some people need mics more than others. That's fine. Yeah. Whoa. Oh. All right.
Well, right, it's our representation of God.
Okay.
Right? In speech, but in more everything.
Okay. Because I have run into people that are like, well, why hide it? If you're really this person, why pretend? And sometimes I'll run in. Have you ever run into people who test you with words and with attitudes to see if you'll react negatively, or like, for me, because I'm a pastor, people are like, they'll just drop F-bombs and things like that, and it'll be like, and they're just like, I can feel from my peripheral that they're looking at me to see if I'm gonna like react or do something. Why do you think that is? What is being discussed here, right? What do your words reveal about the state of your heart? Because there's some people, like for example, there's a whole subsection of, I would say, humanist pastors. Well, who are our humanist pastors that kind of speak to the state of humanity? They're very popular. Most of them are manic depressive, and they'll fill stadiums. And who are they? They're called stand-up comedians. Absolutely. And their main argument is like, it doesn't matter what you say. It's just a joke. It's just whatever. It doesn't matter. Words don't matter, right? Like, we all understand better. We know better, right? Oh, yeah. Right? To a certain degree, a lot of people agree with that. It's like, whoa, you're going to get offended by words? You're going to get offended by these types of things? And during the last few years when, cancel culture was at its height, people reacted to that. It's like, oh, okay, you can't say that, right? But that was a reaction coming from what? From God, from the Bible, from this?
I think it's from society.
Okay.
I mean, it used to be that on Facebook, you never saw any swearing and you never saw any negative gestures.
Okay.
Let's put it that way.
Sure.
And now
That's out there.
it's
Free for all.
and
Okay.
and it used to be that you could if you could even say if it was offensive to you, you could even say that it was offensive or whatever, and you can't do any.
Oh, no, you can. Yeah, you can say, yeah, this offends me, but whether or not they're going to take it down or all this other stuff.
But I mean, it's just.
When we had our series, people were saying all sorts of stuff, and I would just private message them. It's like, hey, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you're feeling, and once you disarm them and get to like, I'm genuinely caring for you and stuff like that, all of a sudden their language would change, and they're like, oh, well, actually, I'm not a praying person, but can you pray for this? Can you do that? Can you do this? Yes.
Well, you also, in forums like that, someone you don't know, and I mean, you put right things that you'd never say to a person to their face.
Okay, very good. Do all of you, I'm going to modify the second question there. How many of you know or have experienced a situation where words have had an irreversible effect on relationships? Like, do you, I mean, it wasn't part of my family, but people close to me's family, there's been situations where things were said and people didn't talk to each other for over a decade. Oh, your family had that? Okay. Okay. Is that destructive, right? Like when, so they do have power. Huh?
Words do hurt.
Words do hurt. Oh, yes. Yes.
You cannot unhear them.
You can't unhear them.
You can try to forgive, but you can't, like.
Okay.
Forget it.
Yeah.
You try to get past it, but it's always
It's always gonna be
lurking in the background. It's
Okay.
always there. There's always a bruise left.
Okay. And so how do people...
Even though you may love that person and care and it's all forgiven,
Right.
there's still a...
I have a little thing for my mom that she said when I was 11 years old. And like, of course I love my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
of course I don't like hold grudge against my mom or anything, but she did say something when I was
But-
11 that I still tell her sometimes. I'm like, Mom, when I was 11, you told me this.
Yeah, I just had a phone call with somebody who had, in this case, it was a mother who is dealing with a situation like that, and it was, what do you do? Sometimes people are surprised by it. Like sometimes people are not aware of what their words do. Let's read Ephesians 4:29. It's a single verse there. Make sure you guys can jump back from Romans to the other text. Let me know who has it. We can share that together.
I do.
All right, Anita has it. Can I have the mic, please?
Yep.
Thank you. Sorry. Go ahead.
Let no corrupt word proceed out of your mouth, but what is good for necessary edification, that it may impart grace to the hearers.
Okay. Depending what generation you grew up in, this is tougher than not. I mean, like, people are pretty guarded with their speech. Like, at least the younger generations are pretty guarded with their speech, because somebody's always recording. Somebody's always watching. There's a record of it, right? I don't know what your school was like, but my middle school was dramatically different than the middle school that some of the kids we interact with now are having. And I still react, because I just learned that, like the way to protect yourself was to make fun of people. And I became very proficient at that. As soon as I mastered the English language, man, I was throwing stuff, I was slinging stuff. And I would say, I don't know if I'm bragging or not, at a high level, okay? And I had brothers, and I had the sports community and that sports entourage thing, and it was hard, it's hard. To this day, my brother and I, we struggle with that because we'll do that with each other, and then my kids hear it, right? And, I'm like,
I've heard described that saying words to people is like putting a nail in a fence.
Yes.
And you can pull the nail out, but it's going to still leave a mark.
Okay, very good. Okay, so your habits
Habits are like that.
are like that. Go ahead.
Is there a little gender difference there, though?
Could be. I've seen the people who don't talk to each other, in the examples I'm thinking in my head, the majority of them are women. So, like,
I mean,
some men write it off. I was thinking about a visit I had last Sabbath with an individual who was like, they were just counseling one of their children before their parent died. Hey, you better go talk to your parent. They hadn't, decades. And it's like, can you, whether it's positive, whether it's negative, can you go and make things right? Or at least get something out? What kind of an effective conversation you're going to have at somebody's deathbed, right? Or death situation, right? So what practical steps can we take this week to ensure our words bring life and not harm? What is that? What are words that bring life? What does that sound like? Can we give good examples of what that sounds like? What's something that builds? So even if are all words going to be nails? I don't know. Like,
The negative words are.
Oh, the negative. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
the
That's a
negative
good
words are.
clarification. Okay. So what, because,
Good marks.
huh?
You could leave good marks on someone.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So what builds? What constructs? Like what kind of examples construct?
Anything positive.
Well, but then you run into just affirm, it's the truth and love, right? And from here, the reminder that are Jews better off? No.
Right?
And so the thing is, I mean, our heart needs changed, right?
Here.
I know.
I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna put this right here. There we go. There we go. I'm gonna get a stand for the next
So
time.
we do have to guard our words, but we also have to have a changed heart.
Okay.
That will flow out of, right? Because words flow from the heart.
Well, it's where our words come from, because if they come from a positive heart, they're going to be positive. And if they don't come from a positive heart, it's going to be a negative reinforcement.
What about, it's more about
Oh yeah.
loving heart
It's right
than
here.
a positive heart.
Pretty good.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
If your heart is full of Jesus, then you're going to say positive things and
Uplifting things.
We're being very general. I'm kind of looking for like very like specific things. What are like phrases that we can use? Gene, you were going to say something.
With my family, my brothers and sisters, we're just coming back to each other.
Okay.
My brother, for the longest time,
Mm-hmm.
that used to live here, finally accepted that our father is both of our families.
Mm.
He's his dad and my dad. And they blamed us girls, me and my other sister, that yes, our dad was their dad too,
Okay.
after dad's been gone so long. And they're tired of blaming us for the,
What kind of language of acceptance was shared to that let you know that was being
that he was
accepted?
sorry.
Oh. Okay, so like
That he and my other sisters, half sisters, blamed us for my dad
So-
separating.
there was forgiveness language.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Man, this just takes me back to 1 John 1:9. Go ahead.
offering help. Like if sometimes you feed someone, you're like, does that make sense? Like you're giving them love, you're like making them feel good, you're helping.
Right.
So there's acts.
Okay.
I've had an interaction with somebody I'm getting to know today. And I asked her how she's doing. She goes, well, I'm here. And I said, well, that's a great place to be. I'm glad you're here. And she said, well, I'm not sure about that. And I said, well, I'm glad you're here. What's going on?
Okay.
And she was at a place where she was ready to give up. She eventually told me. But she unloaded on me. And I was able to pick the positive things that she shared with me and reflect more light on that, and then try and redirect how blessed she was even in the challenges that she was having.
Okay.
And before we parted, her comment to me was, I came here not sure I'd survive today,
Oh,
but I'm leaving here feeling like I will.
very nice. Can you give us an example of a redirection like you described?
There was a complaint about, she's more like her dad than her mom, and her dad was early to rise, early to bed, early to rise, happy, a workaholic. And her mom at 99 years of age is always negative, and she sleeps until 10 and then wants to stay up until 11 or 12, and I can't stay up that late with her because I can't be awake, and then I have to get up early to get everything done perfectly to match hers. And I said, you know, I'm so glad that you still have your mother, because it wasn't long ago that I lost mine.
Right.
Oh. Well, but my dad was so much better. I said, you know, none of our parents are perfect. your mom had to have loved you in order for her to have continued and even want you around her now. Well, she doesn't show it. I said, maybe she doesn't know how.
Right.
And maybe, I feel maybe the Lord's giving you an opportunity to pray for her, because that's a power that he's given us when people are being difficult around us. She says, I couldn't be alive without Jesus. I couldn't be alive without him. And so I was able to encourage that and to reinforce that he's still there with her even in that difficult time. And so it's just knowing I was impressed to talk to her at the right
Nice.
time, because I've seen her off and on for weeks and never ever said anything to her. And this time it was a time where she was ready to give up with whatever.
Nice. Well, good. All right. So the contrast is to highlight things from your own life.
Reinforce the positive things
Right.
from my life, and reinforce that everybody's life has to have something good in it. I mean, even if you only get one slice of bread a day to eat, at least it's one slice of bread,
Okay.
But I don't know.
You could always.
I'm a glass half full person, so it
Okay.
makes it,
Okay. Very good. Very good. Yeah.
All
go
you
ahead.
can do is keep praying for him,
Okay.
because that's what I've been doing for my brother and my sisters, is just keep praying for him.
I struggle with that phrase because we do pray. My prayer list is enormous, but I'm in a weird place, like personally. I don't know if people can relate to this, right? Like, if you do experience a turnaround, if you do experience a thing where you're like, well, that's, I'm going through this list here. That doesn't really describe me, at this time. I do have moments where, it might describe me. But like, for example, was it last night? No, the night before last. I went to the hospital to visit an individual, and man, I don't know, just because I have to do, and there are certain situations where you're seeing harm in some way, shape, or form, and then you have to say something. It's that weird place, like, I'm in a leadership position, but like there comes a time where there is kind of a push to like, well, if I'm not going to say anything, who's going to say anything? And this really does feel like a moment where something should be said. Am I that person? Am I worthy of saying something? Is what I'm going to share going to be constructive? And so, yeah, it does work. I think what she shared is very important. Like, how much of yourself are you giving, like in terms of give, so that the other person can open up? Like, I was very conflicted. I was actually praying on the whole drive down. It was like, man, how am I going to say what I'm going to say? Because this person is basically doing self-harm, but like it's acceptable self-harm, type of thing. Like the challenge is like, hey, are there any tweaks, any changes that you could make so that that doesn't happen? Do you have accountability people that can help, And the entire time I'm very apologetic, and I'm like, I just like, did I say the wrong thing? I'm just asking, is there a time where it crosses over from prayer to interaction, or do you have to wait for it?
Absolutely.
There is.
Absolutely.
Okay. Can we get descriptive about when that time is?
Time when you feel that the Lord's impressing you to do it. I had a coworker who, excellent nurse, just very good nurse, excellent care, strong leader, and when she was out at the nurse's station, her language was like a sailor's.
Okay. I think you shared
And
this before,
I
yeah.
never heard her say that when she was
Right.
in the patient room. And I finally pulled her aside and said, I'm offended when you talk like you are now. I said, I've never, ever heard you say that in a patient room. Why do you need to do it now? Do you mind not talking like that? Oh, I didn't realize I did. She didn't realize that. And she said, thanks for bringing that to my attention.
Right.
But it's, I had to have a relationship with her at the time. I think there's different instances when different relationships. I had a young man who I walked into his room as he was a patient, and he would say, "I'm just letting you know that I've got a foul mouth, so you might as well be prepared."
Yeah, you told us. Yeah.
And it's like,
So that brings us back to the list because, I think of like the comment threads when a pastor or a church leader will have a video, and that video they are calling out sin and sinful behavior, right? And then the comment thread is like, it's pretty split into like, well, here, absolutely. I'm glad somebody's calling it out. And then, man, us Christians or those Christians, that's why I'm not a Christian anymore. Look how judgmental people are. If we were to just read what we just read now, right, and that something like that gets read in church, I don't think these verses get read very much in church because they're not super uplifting, right? Let me just give you a sample, right? Let's just nobody's looking for God. People's throat is an open tomb. There's only death inside, right? With their tongues, they're just, they're constantly lying. They're stinging. They're putting venom into other people's lives. What do we call that today? We have an expression for that. A bunch of toxic people, right? They're always cussing. They're always bitter. They're always negative. And they're killing. Look at all the killing that we see in the land. Huh? Haters. Okay, very good. And then I just want to spend the rest of our time talking about the last verse, right? And we have different versions that frame it in different ways. But it says, "There is no fear of God before their eyes." What does that mean? I think I've tried on several occasions as we've gone through the book of Revelation to just unpack what does it mean to have the fear of God, right? Yeah. If you look at the word there, people will say, well, that's respect, that's reverence. No, the Greek word is phobos or phobeo, where we get phobia from. It's actual fear, right? So there's no fear of God before their eyes, right? And so the person that doesn't know God, they hear a rant like this, and they'll say, "Oh, you want me to be afraid of God?" I was like, is that how it's going to be? I was like, well, what a description. I was like, are you any better? No. So how do we frame this? How do we do the interchange when we frame the human condition in front of people and say, I'm calling back to redemption. I'm calling people back to Jesus. I'm calling people to have fear of God before their eyes. How do you pitch the fear of God before their eyes to people? If you had to, let's brainstorm that as we close, right? Because the discussion questions, I feel like we've covered it, at least for that second section. We see it, everybody's obvious. We see what we see around us in the world, right? How would we promote that? The fear of God in front of their eyes.
I'm wondering if to say, no, I'm not any better than you are. The consequences of me being who I am is death. Because God says we're all sinners, and the wages of sin is death.
Right.
I said, but because of my belief that Christ died for me to save me, I don't have to be afraid of God anymore. I don't have to be afraid of the consequences.
The gift of God is eternal life through Christ Jesus our Lord. I mean, that's, we have.
But the word is fear. Go ahead.
So you're supposed to be afraid of yourself?
Okay.
I'm afraid of the consequences. It might, and some people, it's going to be the wrong reason to turn, I imagine.
No, I mean,
You're afraid you're caught instead
yeah,
of
to me that
afraid.
makes more sense that you would be scared of yourself, right? You have to lean on God.
I-
It's supposed to be a fear of God, but
This is one of those moments where I feel like I have to speak, and guess I have a lot of moments like that. No, there's a verse in the Bible that says, taste and see that the Lord is good, right? So for me, that's been the best explanation for this fear of God thing, right? Like I've tasted and I have seen what my life is like with God. Like the real deal. Not like I'm pretending so that like I fit in a church situation. No, like I've had transformation. Like my life, there's a point A, then there's a point B, right? And so the fear for me slides in front of my eyes is like, man, because it builds on what she said, right? Like, what is my life like without God?
It's a fear of life without God.
Oh, yeah. And so I have, there is a fear of God, but like it's a fear of not having
I get that.
God. Is that a fair way to say it? Is that a good pitch we can give to people?
So what do you say the fear of God is like? Is that what you're saying? The fear of God is actually
The presence. I need the presence of God.
Losing what you've been given.
The presence, so it's a double-edged sword, right? When the presence of God shows up and you're engaging in verse 10 through 18 behavior, what is going to be your reaction when the presence of God shows up?
Fear.
Genesis 3 tells us they went and
Hid.
they hid.
Romans 3:17 says it too. They do not know what true peace is.
Right.
Right. So they have not known it, right? So when you do know it, once you have like the 180 and you've experienced what the calming aspect, the regenerative aspect of having the presence of God or of having Jesus walk with you and like, I'm not afraid anymore. I do actually have peace. Yes, I still have cancer. Yes, my family member died. Yes, I did lose my job, but I'm not afraid about tomorrow, right? And then you are faced with the prospect of not having that. I am truly afraid. I'm gripped with fear. Right. But for people who don't have it, that sounds bananas.
Yeah, they don't
Right? So it is a point A and a point B. And until a person truly experiences it, and we were talking about this in staff meeting, because we struggled as leaders. We were like, I sometimes walk through church or I interact with people, and it's like, is it fair for me to say where I interact with people and, and I say, I don't think that person's been converted, right? Like they've been part of church, they've been part of a walk with Jesus for a long, long time. And like based on some experiences, or at least some of the behavior or some of the interaction or some of the love that's supposed to come out of people and doesn't, is it fair for me to say, hey, I don't think that person's ever been converted?
Well, it takes a while to figure out that you need saved sometimes. And that's where the common ground is, right? I need it saved, you need saved.
I think it's also, there's different times in our lives, how we look at things that can make us have fear or not fear. I just think that there's with the illegal immigrant stuff that has been going on, I had this gut, just making me physically ill.
Mm-hmm.
And I had asked somebody in my home that was of Mexican descent, had they had anybody that they were close to that had been, taken in and deported. And they said, no, and I don't know of anybody. And I said, do you think of it? He goes, I have learned that I have to trust that God's going to take care of what he needs to take care of. And it was the best thing for me. I said, I needed that, thank you. I had no idea of his spiritual whatever, except that he was strong enough to say,
That.
Yeah, and it was exactly what I needed to say. Oh, it's not something I can worry about. It's not something I can do anything about.
Right.
So therefore, I can't worry, I shouldn't be worried about it.
Right, and that's what we've done in terms of like the extrapolation of the cancel thing, right? Because we do that. Like for example, if I say, so the danger, I think that's maybe what you're reacting to me saying, I don't think that person's converted, right? Because is it possible that a person can be in a church for 60 years and not be converted?
Yes.
It's 100% possible, right? So it's not within the realm of impossibility for me to say, I've done a quick assessment, and I'm just not seeing the fruits that there should be. Not even in interaction with other people, like their own peace, right? Because it's giving you a description of what's inside of them. If a person's just gripped with anxiety, right? I think of people really close to me who are paragons of spiritual walk, or at least examples to me personally. And then they're faced with like a particular tragedy or a particular situation where they have to let go of control, and everything's left to somebody else. And I'm like, oh boy, there's words, there's behavior that I'm seeing that I'm like, okay, so you talked a huge game about faith in this situation, but in this personal situation, that's not working out. Why? Why are you so consumed with fear and anxiety? Where's that coming from? Didn't you walk with Jesus? Don't you have your devotions every day? Aren't you reading? Aren't you praying? Right? So it's very subtle, it's very subtle. It's very subtle, right? And then the flip side to that is me saying what I just said, and then allowing the arrogance of what I just said to begin the comparison game, right? Which is also bananas, right? And you're not relying on God, you're relying on yourself as well. So like the hypocrisy thing. So I would say it's very dangerous to say what I said, right? But is it possible to make that assessment and then work from that point to do the interchange that you were talking about with words?
I think so.
Okay.
But I think there has to be a relationship there.
Agreed.
It's got to be, I have to make sure that I am right with Christ in how I am looking at that person, and then and know that person well enough to say, I'm seeing this and I'm wondering if, whatever is coming out is however is coming out it's turning it around to try and see the best in what's going on, and then maybe reflecting as if the negative is.
Very good. Final question. Should somebody having the fear of God before their eyes, should that be our ultimate goal? Right? Because to me, if you end up having the fear, like the one that we just described, where you assess what you are with and without God, right? I think Jesus exemplified that when he told Peter, come out of the boat, come see me, right? Like walk on the water. And, there's a before and after, right? What happens when you are focused and when you're not focused, right? Should that be our main priority? I'm toying with the concept of writing a book, that just kind of highlights this, constantly filtered through Jesus, and putting in our distinctives as Adventists through that filter. Because I just keep running into this. Like for me, it's a pretty marked area in my life where there was a before and there was after. And by the way, I had already been pastoring for a few years when that had happened. So I don't know. Is it worth spending time using? Because it is harsh language, right? Like if a person's not contextualized, saying, hey, do you fear God? Right? Like, is that a problematic phrase to use with people, like just on the get-go?
Well, it may be effective because I wouldn't expect it.
Yeah. I mean, Paul uses it, right?
It causes you to pause and think about that. I mean, deep thinking about that.
Right.
I guess I like the phrase, do you fear life without God? More.
Right.
You kind of have to admit, probably there is a God, and wait, is this?
Right, because at the end, everybody's bargaining.
Then it probably matters.
Everybody's bargaining. If they don't believe in God, everybody's bargaining. It's kind of a gamble, right? Like there is a possibility. You're not proving it or anything else. So I think that's why it's so important to pair it with like 1 John 4:18, there is no fear in love, because perfect love casts out fear. Right? So if you're going to talk about the fear of God, pair it with that, or the verse 10 verses before that. God is love, and he that does not know God does not. Yeah, because God is love. So can we begin that conversation? Is that an okay place to start? Because there are people, like I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, who I had an initial Bible study, and just the schedules haven't been working out, and they kept asking, well, where do I start when I read the Bible? Where do I start? And my usual answer, depending how they grew up and everything else, is I pointing to what? The Gospels, right? I point them to the Gospels. Go to Jesus, right? Go to Jesus. Read that. Is it okay for a person to read the New Testament before they read the Old Testament? Yeah. Okay. Is it okay for a person to read the Old Testament before they read the New Testament? Yeah. I mean, just start, right? Just start. But if we're getting to a place, because more often than not, the more common conversation I end up having with people is about uncertainty. In some way, shape, or form, people are dealing with an enormous amount of uncertainty in their life. Right? Uncertainty about self, uncertainty about life, people around them, society, things like that. And so are there parts in the Bible where you can have certainty, right? Is the description of God a certain thing? Good. Is the feelings we have towards God a pretty certain thing? I think it's pretty constant. You're going to run into people who are going to feel one way or the other. That's why that list exists that we just read, right? That is a reaction to how you feel about the existence or the absence of God in your life, okay? So I don't know. We're going to stop here in this part. Anything else? Any other comments? Any other observations, or anything that you feel challenged with of what we covered today? Anything that you might want to start doing different this week, or?
Using my mouth to bless people.
Okay, very nice, very nice, very nice. I need to do that, especially with the people closest to me. Like, I have this thing in my head. Well, they can handle it, right? Like, no, seriously, it happens in like less than 0.25 seconds. I'm like, It's like, it's fine, it's fine. No.
Positive affirmation is
Yes,
always.
yes, absolutely. I feel challenged by that, absolutely. Anybody else?
Maybe a little pause.
A little pause. Speak life before you speak life. Speak life instead of speaking death. Okay, very good, very good. Is there a volunteer for prayer as we close? Very easy to talk.
Sure.
My bad for making eye contact. It's tough. That's.
Dear Lord, thank you for this time that we have to spend with you in your word. Please help us. We want our hearts to reflect you. We want what comes out of our mouth to reflect you. And we just pray that you would change us. You'd help us be careful. You would help us use our words wisely as you've taught us here. Amen.
Amen. All right, if you're looking ahead, we're going to cover verses 19 through 26 next time. So if you're reading ahead, is this yours?
Yes, yours is under your chair.
Okay, that figures.